Lyra had lived in silence for 7 long years. 7 years in the shadowed edges of Arendor, far from the bustling cities and the harsh gaze of the Alpha King's court. She had built her life in the deep forests, among trees older than kingdoms, where the air smelled of moss and rain. Here, no one knew her name, and no one could see the white wolf she carried within her. The wolf was powerful and wild, a spirit bound to her soul since birth. It was rare, even among wolf-bonded humans. Legends said a white wolf could change the balance of power in the kingdom, could bring kings to their knees or turn warriors into dust. For Lyra, it had brought exile and pain. She remembered the night when everything changed, the night her wolf had risen uncontrollably and destroyed the manor of a noble family. She had barely survived, and the king's hunters had nearly taken her life. Since then, she had hidden, always careful, always alert. The forest was her only friend. She could hear the whisper of the trees, the call of the distant rivers, the wind brushing over leaves. But even here, she was never completely safe. Word of her existence had begun to spread, carried by traders, hunters, and whisperers who liked to speak of impossible things. Lyra had tried to stay invisible, but fate had a different plan. On a gray morning, when fog rolled thick between the trees, she noticed movement at the edge of her small clearing. Figures in dark, stiff clothing emerged from the mist couriers of the court, she realized before they even spoke. Her heart raced. She had hoped it would never come to this day, the day she would be forced to face the Alpha King. "You are Lyra of the White Wolf," one of them said, his voice low but firm. "By the command of His Majesty, you are to appear at the court for judgment." Lyra's jaw tightened. "I am no one's subject," she said softly, though her voice carried a tremor. "I live here by my own will. You cannot summon me." The man's eyes were cold. "The king does not ask for permission. Refusal will endanger those you care for." Her stomach knotted. Even in exile, she had loved her friends, the forest creatures, a wandering wolf companion she had raised as her own. Threats to them forced her hand. She nodded slowly. "I will go," she whispered, though a part of her screamed to run deeper into the forest, to disappear completely. By nightfall, she stood on the edges of the capital city, cloaked in shadows, watching the walls rise above her like stone teeth. The air smelled of smoke and iron. Guards patrolled the gates with hawk-like precision. Lyra's pulse quickened, but she kept her head down. She was small, ordinary-seeming, a woman who could easily be overlooked. The secret of the White Wolf remained hers alone. For now, inside the castle, everything was grand and cold. Towers stretched to the sky, and halls were lined with tapestries that depicted battles, feasts, and hunts of kings long gone. Courtiers passed in glimmering attire, whispering as they moved. Lyra felt like a shadow in a bright room, invisible yet noticed, and she hated the feeling. A herald led her to the throne room. She could see the Alpha King from the doorway before she entered, tall, broad, and fierce, with eyes like dark amber fire. His presence was heavy, and the room seemed to bow to his will even without words. He did not rise immediately, watching her silently as she approached. "You have hidden for 7 years, the king said finally, his voice both commanding and oddly curious. 7 years is a long time to deny what you are. Lyra swallowed, but she did not kneel. She had survived 7 years by refusing to bow, and she would not start now. "I am not here to please you," she said quietly. "I only follow because my loved ones are at risk." The king's gaze softened, just slightly, as if he understood more than he should. "Your wolf," he said almost to himself, "is rare, dangerous, powerful. I wonder, have you learned to control it? Or do you still fear its power?" Lyra clenched her fists. She had trained herself for years to suppress the wolf, to live among humans and hide what she was. But now, with the king watching, she felt a familiar pulse in her chest, the wolf stirring, sensing the presence of another who could match its strength. She fought it down. "I control it," she said. "I have controlled it for 7 years. That is enough." The king rose slowly, his long cloak brushing the stone floor. "Control is a delicate thing," he said. "Many who try to hide their power find it controls them instead. You will demonstrate your truth, or your deception will cost you everything." Lyra's heart pounded. She knew what he meant. Shift. Reveal the wolf. Show him her full self. A part of her wanted to refuse, to turn invisible and vanish into the shadows forever. But another part, a deeper, older part, thrilled at the thought of revealing her secret to someone who might understand it, someone who might not fear it. "You ask too much," she said, though her voice was steadier than she felt. "I have survived this long without bowing to kings or courtiers. Why should I start now?" The king studied her carefully, then spoke with the weight of authority that made her bones ache. "Because, Lyra, your wolf is not just a creature, it is a legacy. And some legacies are not meant to remain hidden. You will shift, here, before me, or you will leave with nothing but exile and regret." Lyra's jaw tightened. She had always been proud, stubborn, and alone, but now the threat was closer than ever. She could feel the wolf stirring, a warm pulse of silver energy beneath her skin. It wanted to run, to leap, to claim the forest and everything she had kept hidden. But she also felt something new: curiosity, fascination, and perhaps a fragile, dangerous trust in the king. The courtiers held their breath as Lyra slowly stepped forward. She closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the wolf beneath her, feeling its power and fear, its longing to be free. Her body began to shift, her bones elongating, her skin shimmering with pale light. When she opened her eyes, they were glowing amber, reflecting the moonlight that seemed to stream through the high windows. Gasps echoed through the hall. The courtiers whispered of magic, of myths come to life. But the Alpha King did not flinch. He studied her, not with fear, but with an intensity that pierced her very soul. Lyra felt exposed, vulnerable, yet strangely unafraid. "You are magnificent," he said softly, and his voice carried more awe than command. "And dangerous, just as I hoped." Lyra, still trembling from the transformation, lifted her head. "I am dangerous," she said, her voice stronger now. "But I am not your enemy. I will not bow. But I will not harm those who deserve protection." The king's eyes narrowed slightly, as if he weighed her words, her spirit, her very being. "You have strength and defiance. Both are rare, both are necessary." A sudden commotion in the hall interrupted them. From the shadows, a figure slipped through the doors. Cloaked and swift, Lyra recognized the energy immediately: a wolf-bonded human, one she had thought lost years ago. The stranger's eyes gleamed with warning. Something dangerous was coming, something that could challenge even the Alpha King himself. Lyra felt her heart skip. Her wolf stirred again, sensing threat, sensing challenge. She turned to the king, and in that brief moment, she saw the tiniest crack in his formidable armor. Concern. Before she could react further, the cloaked figure whispered urgently to her, words she could barely hear over the hall's tension. "You don't know what he plans. The king is not what he seems." Lyra's pulse raced. She knew one thing for certain: 7 years of hiding had ended tonight. But the real trials, the real danger, had only just begun. The white wolf within her growled softly, sensing the future, sensing the trials ahead. And Lyra realized, with both fear and a strange, thrilling excitement, that she would have to confront not only the Alpha King but the truths she had buried deep within herself, or risk losing everything. The morning sunlight streamed through the high windows of the Alpha King's throne room, casting long shadows over polished stone floors. Lyra remained in her wolf form, the white fur shimmering softly in the light. The courtiers whispered among themselves, some in awe, others in fear. Yet through the murmurs, all eyes were on the Alpha King. He stood on the dais, tall and commanding, yet something in his gaze softened when it met hers. The wolf within Lyra sensed it immediately, an unusual presence. One that could match power with power, but also understood the delicate threads of loyalty, courage, and fear. "You have shown your strength," the king said, his voice calm yet firm. "But the court will not accept a hidden wolf. They demand proof that you can be controlled, that you serve a purpose beyond your own desire." Lyra shifted back to her human form, the transformation smooth and practiced after 7 years of exile. Her skin glowed faintly in the sunlight, her eyes still reflecting a hint of amber from her wolf self. She felt exposed, every heartbeat loud and steady in the silent room. "I serve no court," she said softly, meeting his gaze. "I am bound only by my own honor and the protection of those I care for. I have hidden for 7 years to survive, and I will continue to protect, not to obey." The king's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in challenge. He stepped closer, his boots clicking against the stone. "Survival alone is not enough in my kingdom. You have power. But power without direction can destroy everything it touches. I need to know if you will be ally or danger." Lyra did not move away. She had expected this test, this weighing of her soul against his judgment. "I will not harm those who are innocent, but I will not bow to fear or to control. That is my truth." A tense silence fell over the room. Courtiers shifted nervously, whispering about the rare human who dared to speak boldly to the Alpha King. Many had tried before and failed, often with tragic results, yet the king made no move to strike her down. Instead, he studied her as though he could see the wolf beneath her skin, the years of exile, and the pain she carried. "You speak with honesty," he said finally. "That may be your saving grace, or it may be your curse." Before she could respond, the doors of the throne room burst open. A figure cloaked in midnight blue slipped inside, moving with the speed and grace of a wolf. Lyra's heart skipped. She recognized the presence immediately, a wolf-bonded human. One she had thought lost to time and danger. "You don't know what you're stepping into," the cloaked figure whispered, glancing toward the king. "The Alpha King. He is not what he seems. There are plans you cannot yet understand." Lyra's wolf stirred beneath her skin, sensing both threat and challenge. She narrowed her eyes at the intruder. "I survive by my own judgment," she said quietly. "Speak carefully." The figure froze, then bowed slightly. "I mean no harm. Yet. But your wolf will be tested in ways you have not imagined. Allies will be enemies, and enemies will wear familiar faces." The king's amber eyes narrowed. "Explain yourself," he commanded. The cloaked figure hesitated, then spoke quickly. "The nobles. They seek to use wolf-bonded humans as tools. They do not care for life or loyalty. Your Highness may desire control, but the cost may be more than you or she can bear." Lyra felt a flicker of fear, but also determination. She had survived 7 years by hiding and running. But now the dangers were more complicated. They were inside the castle, inside the king's court. She had to navigate not just her own strength, but the power games of the court itself. The king's expression darkened. "You speak of treachery," he said, "yet you arrive uninvited. How do I know you are not part of this web of deceit?" "I am who I am," the figure said boldly. "And I am warning you before it is too late." Lyra shifted once more into her wolf form, letting her presence fill the room. The white fur glowed faintly, and her eyes burned with intensity. The courtiers flinched, some stepping back, some trying to hide behind pillars. Only the king remained unmoved, his gaze fixed on her, as though measuring the very weight of her soul. "You are bold," the king said, almost with admiration, "and dangerous. That is what I hope to see." Lyra felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. For the first time, she realized that the Alpha King did not fear her, not truly. He respected strength, and he could sense the wolf's power beneath her calm exterior. A subtle tension sparked between them. A mixture of challenge, curiosity, and something unspoken, deeper than words. The court will not forgive hesitation, the king continued. You will face tests, Lyra. Each noble, each warrior, will try to bend you, to see your true colors. And I will see if you can endure without losing yourself. Lyra nodded slowly. She understood the weight of his words. 7 years of exile had taught her discipline, control, and survival. But the court was a different kind of battlefield. Here, power was measured in whispers, in hidden knives, in the ability to manipulate fear and loyalty. She would have to be stronger than ever. For herself, and for those she cared for. The cloaked figure stepped closer to Lyra. You must watch the king closely, they whispered. There is more to him than the throne, more than the power he shows. Trust is fragile here. And sometimes, the heart is the most dangerous weapon of all. Lyra's wolf growled softly, sensing the truth in those words. She could feel it. The Alpha King was a storm, a force of nature that could be devastating if crossed, yet protective if earned. Her own heart raced at the thought of facing him, of standing in the center of such intensity, knowing that her every action could tip the balance between survival and destruction. The king stepped closer, his presence overwhelming, yet strangely comforting. You are not like the others, he said softly. You carry a wolf, a rare and dangerous gift, but you also carry restraint, courage, and defiance. That combination is not common. Lyra shifted back to her human form, lifting her chin. I have lived by those traits alone. They have kept me alive, and they will continue to do so. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Very well. You will remain in the court. You will face challenges. But know this. Your wolf, and you, are not ignored. Every move you make, every choice, will be watched, and some will seek to bend you, while others will seek to protect you. Lyra's heart thumped in her chest. The court was a web, and she was caught in the center. Allies and enemies could be disguised as one another. She realized that survival would require more than strength. It would require trust, courage, and perhaps a willingness to let someone see the truth of her heart. Night fell over the castle, and Lyra found herself in a quiet chamber at the edge of the court. Moonlight spilled through the tall windows, casting silver patterns across the floor. Her wolf stirred within her, sensing danger beyond the castle walls, and longing for the freedom of the forests. Yet here, in this strange, powerful place, she also felt the first spark of something she had not felt in years. Possibility. She crouched by the window, staring out at the darkened city, thinking of the journey ahead. Tests, trials, and dangers awaited. The court was filled with intrigue, and the king's intentions were unclear. Some part of her wondered if she could ever trust him, or if her wolf would have to fight alone against enemies unseen. A faint sound reached her ears, a whisper, carried on the night wind. Familiar and unsettling. The cloaked figure had said true words. Enemies and allies could be disguised. Lyra's eyes narrowed, and the wolf growled softly. She would not be taken unprepared. And then, from the shadows outside the window, she saw movement, silent, deliberate, and watching. Someone was waiting. Perhaps an enemy. Perhaps an ally. Perhaps a test sent by the Alpha King himself. Lyra's pulse quickened. 7 years of hiding had ended. Now, the trials had begun. The court, the king, and the secrets of wolf-bonded humans would challenge everything she had learned. And in that moment, she realized one thing with crystal clarity. She could not run anymore. She had to face the storm, and in doing so, discover not only her strength, but the truths hidden deep within her heart. The white wolf within her stirred, ready, powerful, and patient. And Lyra, standing at the edge of shadow and moonlight, knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The castle was quieter than usual that night, the corridors echoing faintly with distant footsteps, and the whispers of courtiers long retired to their chambers. Lyra moved carefully through the hallways, her senses alert. Even in human form, the wolf within her stirred, aware of every sound, every shadow. She had learned to trust her instincts over the years, and tonight, they were restless. The cloaked figure she had encountered earlier had vanished as mysteriously as they had appeared, leaving her with a single warning that echoed in her mind. Allies may be enemies. The Alpha King is not what he seems. Lyra did not know if she fully trusted the words, but she could feel the truth in them. The king was powerful, intelligent, and mysterious. He held the court in his hand, bending loyalty, fear, and desire with subtle skill, and now, she had entered his world, and there was no turning back. She found herself in the moonlit gardens, where the scent of night-blooming flowers mixed with the earthy aroma of the forest that surrounded the castle. The trees whispered above her, and the fountains sang softly as water spilled over polished stone basins. She crouched beside a marble bench, listening to the quiet. It was then that she sensed someone approaching. Not a courtier, not a spy, someone familiar. Her heart skipped a beat. The wolf stirred, muscles tensing, ready to leap, and then she saw him. The Alpha King himself, moving through the shadows with quiet grace, his cloak brushing the ground. His amber eyes found hers immediately, and a faint smile touched his lips. "You move well in the night," he said softly. "Your wolf senses more than most." Lyra rose slowly, keeping her distance. "And you move like a shadow," she said, her voice steady. "It is no surprise. You are the Alpha King." He laughed softly, a sound that carried both warmth and power. "I am what I must be," he said. "But tonight, I am here not as a king, but as someone curious about the woman who hides a wolf in her soul." Lyra's heart quickened, a mix of caution and a strange thrill she could not name. "Curiosity can be dangerous," she said, "especially in a court filled with ambition and deceit." The king stepped closer, his gaze intense yet measured. "Perhaps," he said, "but I have seen enough to know that you are not ordinary. Your wolf, your strength, your defiance, they intrigue me." Lyra felt her cheeks flush, though she tried to hide it. 7 years of solitude had taught her to guard her heart. Yet standing here, in the quiet of the night, she felt something unfamiliar. A pull. A connection she could not explain. Before she could respond, a sudden movement at the edge of the garden drew her attention. Figures cloaked in dark colors emerged from the shadows, silent as predators, courtiers, perhaps, or mercenaries sent to test her. The wolf within her growled, a low, warning sound that vibrated through her chest. The king's eyes narrowed. "You were right," he said. "This court hides dangers that move in silence. We must be careful." Lyra's wolf flared beneath her skin, sensing the tension. She shifted instantly, transforming into her white wolf form, fur glowing softly in the moonlight, eyes blazing with intensity. She faced the approaching threat without fear. The cloaked figures hesitated for a moment, then lunged. Lyra moved with fluid grace, dodging and weaving. Using strength and speed she had honed for survival. The king did not draw a weapon. Instead, he watched, studying her, learning, understanding the rhythm of her power. The attackers were skilled, but not enough. Lyra's wolf leapt, twisted, and struck with precise force, scattering them into the shadows. The cloaked figures retreated, leaving only silence in their wake. Breathing heavily, Lyra shifted back to human form. The king approached, his eyes examining her with a mix of awe and something softer, something unspoken. "Impressive," he said quietly. "Your wolf, your skill, it is extraordinary." Lyra's heart raced, both from the fight and from the intensity of his gaze. "It is survival," she said simply. "I have no choice." The king studied her, a subtle expression of respect and curiosity in his amber eyes. "And yet, there is more to you than survival. I see it. The wolf is strong, but you are stronger." Lyra felt a strange warmth in her chest, a feeling she had not experienced in years. She had spent so long hiding, running, surviving alone, and now, in this strange and dangerous court, she found herself both challenged and seen in a way that unsettled and fascinated her. But the night's calm was fragile. The cloaked figure she had seen before appeared once more, slipping through the garden shadows with urgent speed. Lyra tensed. "You again," she whispered. The figure bowed slightly. "There is no time to waste," they said. "The court is filled with plots. Some seek to use your wolf, and some intend to harm you to reach the king. You must decide whom to trust." And quickly, Lyra's wolf growled softly beneath her skin. She had learned long ago that trust was dangerous, yet ignoring it could be deadly. She studied the cloaked figure, then glanced at the king. He did not intervene, his gaze steady, almost as if testing her judgment. "Why do you help me?" she asked quietly. The figure hesitated. "Because your wolf is rare. Because your survival matters. More than you realize. But you must act carefully. The king himself. He has secrets. Secrets that could change everything you believe about this court." Lyra's mind raced. She realized that the danger was greater than she had imagined. Allies could be enemies. Enemies could be allies. And even the king held mysteries she might never fully understand. Yet, she felt an unfamiliar thrill, a challenge that stirred both the wolf and the human in her. Suddenly, a scream echoed from the far side of the garden. Courtiers scattered, and the moonlight revealed a figure being pushed violently against a fountain. Lyra's wolf flared immediately, and she ran, leaping with astonishing speed to intervene. The attackers were skilled, but Lyra's instincts and power were stronger. With swift, precise movements, she drove them back, her white fur glowing in the moonlight. The figure by the fountain turned out to be a young court scribe, shaken but unharmed. The king arrived moments later, moving with fluid grace. He looked at Lyra, a mix of admiration and something deeper in his gaze. "You are not just powerful," he said softly. "You are fearless and wise." Lyra shifted back to human form, her chest heaving from the exertion. "I survive," she said simply. "And I protect. That is all." The king's eyes softened, and for a moment, the court, the danger, and the night's tension faded into something more personal, more intimate. "You are extraordinary, Lyra," he said quietly. "Your strength is not just in the wolf, it is in your heart. Your courage, your defiance." Lyra felt her pulse quicken. A strange, thrilling warmth spreading through her. She had lived so long in hiding, fearing exposure and rejection. Yet here, in the moonlit garden, facing danger and mystery, she felt seen, recognized, and challenged in a way that stirred both fear and desire. The cloaked figure approached once more, bowing slightly. "Be cautious," they said. "The trials ahead will be greater. Betrayal can come from the most unexpected places." Lyra nodded, her wolf growling softly beneath her skin. She knew this was true. The court was a web, and she was now firmly caught in the center. Allies and enemies could be hidden behind familiar faces, and the Alpha King himself, for all his power and mystery, remained unpredictable. The king stepped closer, his amber eyes locked on hers. "Tomorrow, the court will challenge you further," he said softly. "Not only your wolf, but your heart and your mind. You must choose carefully, Lyra. Every move you make will matter." Lyra met his gaze steadily, feeling the wolf within her stir with anticipation. "I have always chosen my path," she said, "and I will continue to do so." The king's expression was unreadable, a mixture of respect, challenge, and something more, something that neither words nor power could fully capture. "Then we shall see," he said quietly. Lyra turned toward the shadows at the edge of the garden, sensing movement, whispers, and plots yet unseen. The night was alive with danger, intrigue, and possibilities she had never imagined. But for the first time in 7 years, she felt ready not just to survive, but to face the storm with both wolf and heart. And deep within, she felt the spark of a connection with the Alpha King, dangerous, powerful, and unspoken, that promised trials, longing, and truths that could change both their lives forever. The morning sun had barely touched the castle towers when Lyra stood on the edge of the white forest, her cloak fluttering in the wind. The Alpha King walked beside her, silent yet commanding, his amber eyes fixed on the path ahead. The forest had always been a place of power, a sanctuary where wolf spirits gathered, where the line between human and wolf blurred, and where the strongest bonds were forged. Today, it would become a place of trial and redemption. "Are you certain this is the way?" Lyra asked quietly, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. The forest smelled of pine, wet earth, and a faint, mystical energy she had not felt in years. The king nodded. "The white forest holds the truth," he said. "And perhaps it can heal more than just the body." Lyra's wolf stirred beneath her skin, sensing the forest's energy, alert to every rustle and whisper. She shifted briefly into her white wolf form, letting the glow of her fur mingle with the morning light. The king watched silently, almost respectfully, allowing her the space to transform. "You trust me enough to show your wolf here," he said softly. Lyra met his gaze. "Trust is earned," she replied, "and danger often teaches more than safety ever could." There. The path through the forest led them to a clearing where ancient stones were arranged in a circle, worn smooth by centuries of rain and wind. The air pulsed with power, and Lyra felt it tug at the wolf within her, calling it to rise fully. She knew that the trials ahead were not just about survival, but about embracing herself, the wolf and the human, strength and heart together. Suddenly, the cloaked figure from before appeared once more, stepping from the shadows. Lyra stiffened. "You again," she said. "What do you want?" "To guide you," the figure said simply. "The forest tests the bond between human and wolf. It also tests hearts. The Alpha King is powerful, but so is the forest. You must be ready for both." Lyra's wolf growled softly, sensing tension and a strange energy that seemed older than the castle, older than the kingdom itself. She nodded. "I understand." The king stepped into the center of the circle. "This is a place of truth," he said. "You will face trials not only of strength, but of heart. Only by embracing both can you survive what comes next." Lyra shifted fully into her wolf form. Her fur gleamed white like snow in the morning sun, her eyes glowing with a fierce amber light. The forest seemed to respond, leaves whispering, and shadows bending around her. The king watched her closely, but he did not step back. Instead, he seemed to accept her power as part of the balance they now shared. The first trial came swiftly. From the edges of the clearing, dark spirits emerged, figures twisted and shadowed, embodiments of fear, doubt, and the hidden dangers that the court had sent to test her. Lyra leapt forward, her wolf form moving with grace, speed, and raw power. She struck with precision, dodged with instinct, and used the energy of the forest to guide her. The king drew his sword, moving beside her, a silent partner, matching her every move with skill and authority. Together, they fought, weaving a dance of power, defiance, and trust. Lyra realized in that moment that the king was more than a ruler. He was a warrior, a protector, and someone who understood strength without needing to dominate it. As the last shadow dissolved into mist, Lyra shifted back to human form, breathing heavily but unbroken. The king studied her, and for the first time, he let a faint smile touch his lips. "You are extraordinary," he said quietly, "and you have more courage than many I have known." Lyra's heart thumped, both from exertion and from the intensity of their shared moment. "It is not courage alone," she said. "It is survival, and the will to protect those I care for." The king stepped closer, his presence overwhelming, yet comforting in a way that unsettled her heart. "And yet, there is more," he said softly. "More than protection, more than survival. You carry a wolf, yes, but also a heart that refuses to bend. That is rare indeed." Before she could respond, The cloaked figure spoke again. The final trial is not of strength, but of choice, they said. You will have the power to heal, to bind, to change fate itself. But the decision will test your heart. Choose wisely, Lyra, for it will define everything. Lyra's wolf stirred within her, feeling the pull of the forest, the energy of the king, and the weight of the decision she now faced. She understood instantly. The king's life, her own destiny, and the balance of their bond rested in her hands. The king fell to one knee, placing a hand on the ground, letting the forest's power flow through him. Lyra, he said softly, the curse I bear has held me for years. It grants strength, yes, but also solitude and pain. Only the wolf bonded to a human of true heart can lift it. You could be the one to do it. Lyra's chest tightened. The truth was clear. The king was not just a ruler, not just a warrior. He carried a burden that could only be healed by someone willing to embrace both their strength and their heart. Her wolf growled softly, as if understanding the magnitude of the moment. She stepped closer, letting her hands rest lightly on his shoulders. Her heart raced, and her wolf stirred with energy, ready to release the power she had long held in check. She closed her eyes, letting the wolf's light flow through her, through the king, through the forest itself. Energy swirled around them, a dance of white and amber, of human will and wolf spirit intertwined. The king gasped softly as the energy reached him, but he did not resist. Instead, he leaned into the power, allowing it to flow through him, trusting her completely. Lyra felt both fear and exhilaration. This was no longer a test, it was a bond, a merging of strength, courage, and heart that neither had experienced before. When the light faded, both stood, breathing heavily, yet unbroken. The forest was calm, almost reverent. Lyra's wolf within her stirred one last time, then settled, a gentle warmth filling her chest. She had embraced herself fully, the wolf and the human, the strength and the heart, and in doing so, she had healed not only the king's curse but also a part of herself she had hidden for 7 years. The king looked at her. His amber eyes softened with something she had not seen before: respect, gratitude, and something deeper, unspoken. You have done what I thought impossible, he said quietly. You have not only survived, Lyra, but you have changed fate itself. Lyra shifted back to her human form fully, feeling the exhaustion and relief wash over her. We did it together, she said softly. He nodded, his hand brushing lightly against hers. Yes, together. For a moment, they simply stood, breathing in the quiet of the forest, the bond between them solid and unspoken. The trials, the court, the danger, all of it had led to this moment. They had faced fear, betrayal, and power, yet emerged stronger, connected not only by necessity but by respect, trust, and the faint spark of something more. The cloaked figure appeared one last time, bowing slightly. The forest has accepted you, they said. The bond is sealed. But remember, the world beyond the white forest still holds challenges. Allies may falter, enemies may rise, yet your strength, your heart, will guide you. Lyra nodded. She had survived, learned, and grown. She had faced the Alpha King, revealed her wolf, and discovered the depth of her own courage. And for the first time in 7 years, she felt free not just from hiding, but from fear. The king stepped closer, his gaze softening as he looked at her. Lyra, he said quietly, you are no longer hidden, no longer alone. The wolf and the human, they are both yours. And as long as you stand by my side, nothing will ever take that from you. Lyra felt a warmth in her chest, a sense of belonging she had never known. I will stand, she said softly, and I will face what comes, with both strength and heart. The forest seemed to hum in response, leaves whispering above them as if celebrating the bond forged in moonlight, trial, and trust. The Alpha King reached out, taking her hand gently. In that touch, Lyra felt not only power and protection but also understanding, respect, and something deeper, a connection that would shape the rest of their lives. Together, they stepped from the clearing, the white wolf within her resting, calm, and powerful. The trials of the court, the danger of betrayal, and the challenges of the forest had tested them both, but they had endured, stronger, and united. And in the heart of the white forest, Lyra finally understood that the bond between human and wolf, ruler and outcast, was more than survival. It was destiny, trust, and a beginning, not an end.